Welcome back to the Cricket Matters podcast. Today's topic is all about how many calories do cricketers need. But before we dive into that, James, tell me a little bit about how your cricketing tournament, what was it and how did it go last week?
It was the home nations, or the Triple Crown of cricket with the over 40s, England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. Wales did really well. We came second. We beat Ireland. We beat Scotland, lost to England. Unfortunately, me personally, I pulled a quad and I couldn't really play. So I kind of hobbled in the England game is the best way to describe it. So personally, it wasn't great, but for the team, I think it was a great effort, great wins against Ireland and Scotland. And unfortunately, England were the better team on the day when we played them. So it was all fun and games though. However, something else happened on Saturday when I was playing on one leg, and I was done by the famous man-cad. Let's just bring that up very quickly. So I got man-cadded in a game on Saturday, which we end up going on to win. But that's the first time it has happened and someone's upheld it, I think is the best way to put it. So there you go.
Disgraceful. Do you think they should have let you play on?
No comment.
It's a terrible way to be out, and I don't even know about cricket, but I know that. There we go. So we are talking about how many calories do cricketers need, and it all starts with why do we need to understand caloric needs? Why is it crucial for cricketers in order to help optimise their performance and maintain good health?
Well, I think let's start in the basic terms of what is a calorie. It's basically a unit of energy and how much energy your body needs in order to perform or perform basic functions, let alone the sport of cricket. And I think what we've realised about work with many cricketers and hearing and speaking to great coaches who work with a number of great baseball athletes and other top athletes, one of the biggest problems people have is that they undereat. And if you undereat during performance and competition, yes, you may feel better, but it can have a detrimental effect to your decision making, because sport is all about making the right decisions at the right time. And what I'm seeing at an amateur level consistently, people underfeed themselves before the game, during the game, except for teas, right? We'll come to that in a second. And then they overfeed after the game, which involves beer, and as we did Saturday night, actually, pizzas and chips, which was made in the oven down at Cardiff Cricket Club. There was an overfeeding element here, but we need to figure out, well, how many calories do you need to perform at your highest and perform at your best during match day? And it's different for different people. Everyone has different caloric needs, essentially. So that's why we came up with a fancy calculator on cricketmatters.com. Go to cricketmatters.com/calories, and you'll get a calculator here that gives you a rough ballpark figure of where you should be aiming for on match days, training days, off days, rest days, you name it. But the point is, it's a unit of energy, and we need to determine how much energy we need to help us perform the best whilst playing, because cricket is a game of decisions.
So talking with the amateur guys then, how do you know they're underfed? What sort of decisions or what are they saying to you in terms of what they're eating pre-match?
Well, it's a lot of them aren't eating any breakfast at all. Or because most of the games here we play start midday. So not many people are eating, they're having a coffee, maybe at Breakfast Club as an example at Cardiff, but they're not having that much. They're having like a light sandwich or, if anything, nothing at all. And then they'll have their tea, which they bring with them, which is usually a Tesco meal deal now, because most clubs aren't doing cricket teas anymore, and that is their need. So if you take the average Tesco meal deal, not a plug for Tesco in any way, shape or form, but he's talking about a sandwich of four... yeah. Tesco is like, an average sandwich is 450 calories, you got a drink of water, and you got like a snack bar or something here. So you're talking about 600 calories, and that's all that's going in their body. Whereas we know, for somebody who is about 80, the average weight is about 80 kilograms, right? They need about 3,000 calories to perform during the game, right? To perform well and to also recover well afterwards. So there's many things and considerations we've got to think about here. So what I'm seeing is undereating, sometimes overeating at tea if there's teas available, but then that has a detrimental effect on you as well when you're performing in the second half and the second innings too. So it's a fine balance, but it all comes down to working out how many calories do you need first and foremost to then make better decisions. How much you eat before the meal, before the game, during the game, and then after the game, so you can go and play again the following day. That's what you got to look at.
for your body to perform its daily functions, do whatever activity level you need to do, because that's all taken into it as well, taking into account your activity level, and just perform at whatever basic level.
Exactly, and there's a fancy formula. And you got the basal metabolic rate, which you just need. That's the base you need to just perform stuff like breathing to survive every day. And then you've got another level where you just maintain your body weight, because the body wants homeostasis. Essentially, it wants to find balance. Okay, and balance comes with eating the right amount of food. But there are loads of factors that influence your maintenance calorie: age, gender, activity levels, metabolism, you name it. Everyone is different. Josh is different than mine. I am different to most other people out there as well. You put 10 people in the room, everyone will have different maintenance calories, and it won't be coming down to just some simple fancy formula. That gets us into a ballpark starting point, and then you've got to adjust it accordingly to your needs, right?
Yeah. I mean, it does take a bit of figuring out, doesn't it? Because even with the most fancy calculator, the Mifflin St. Jean is the most accurate calorie calculator around at the moment. But I was about to say 60% of the time it works every time. It's not quite that inaccurate, but it's a little bit better than that. But it can be off by a couple of 100 calories in either direction. So you need to do your calculation, eat that number of calories, stay consistent, and then see what happens to your body weight. Does it stay the same? Does it go up? Does it go down? And then you've got to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
So it might take a few weeks potentially to find what your maintenance actually is, even when you've used one.
Exactly. And let's give it a live example here, because I can't show the screen, but I can talk about it. Yeah. We've got literally me as 72 kilos and 173 centimeters, about 5'9". I'd like to say I'm 6'6", but I'm not. But for me, my maintenance level is 2,466. How do we know this? Because it's been like this for years, and that's the area we know works well. Yeah. What from this I know is that on match days when my energy level and my concentration needs are higher, I'm going up to more around 3,000 calories for that day to perform. Okay. Now, if I'm trying to lose weight, I know I need to drop from 2,466 down to 1,900 roughly, and eat consistently at that level to drop weight. Now, by knowing this maintenance level, we can do so much stuff here, but no one ever knows what their maintenance levels are to make these better decisions, to think well, perform better for cricket, but also in the off season when a lot of us put on a lot of weight in season, how to lose weight afterwards, right? Or even putting lean muscle mass on. You put more. You need to know where your maintenance level is, know how much you need to add on to it. So there's lots of fancy calculations to go behind it. But I'm going on to this. There's a couple of studies, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce them in some respect, right? But they found like Sakamoto, and he sounds like very Japanese in my opinion as I look onto the screen here now. He says that most baseball players exhibited notably low energy intakes relative to the demands of their rigorous exercises, notably lacking in carbohydrates and proteins. Right? Carbohydrates and proteins. And that was backed up in a 2023 study on female soccer players or football players, highlighted a troubling trend. These athletes consumed only 2,274 calories a day, whereas their energy expenditure during competitive periods was significantly greater at 2,918. Now you can read this on the blog, cricketmatters.com/calories, you can check it out there. So the implications for cricket are this: these findings underscore, like I said, quote, a critical oversight in the nutritional planning for athletes in high performance sports, including cricket. Cricket players, particularly during intensive training sessions and match days, will likely experience similar challenges. Sufficient caloric intake and the right balance of macronutrients are essential to sustain their performance over long periods. And that adds to concentration levels, okay? When you're batting, when you're bowling, in the field. Think about those drop chances when you're not concentrating, okay? Think about how you can't get above 30, 40 because you're out of gas. Maybe it's not just the fact that you're not fit enough, maybe it's the fact that you haven't got enough energy to help fuel those decisions at the same time. So, just a starting point, just a talking point for us to go over today. It's a very geeky subject, nutrition. And maybe most of you would rather just think about the calories that you consume after the beer in terms of pizzas and beers when they get put on the club. And just to put it in there, technically alcohol is a macronutrient. And you get 7 calories per gram. So, whereas fat, you get 9 grams.
You've just ruined some people's days.
I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, they do count. But it is one of those things to think about here in terms of this. So calorie maintenance is important.
It does, but also alcohol affects recovery and sleep as well. So if you have a tough game and then you drink a little, I'm not saying you can't have a beer, drink a little bit too much, you might not sleep as well. Therefore, the next day you're not recovered as well. Therefore, you're prone to more injuries, etc., etc.
It's a vicious cycle. But I tell you what, we'll do that on the next podcast. Let's do what cricketers should eat and drink on a match day to give practical examples, I think. So once you go to the calorie calculator to get a rough idea of what you should be eating, or what do you do, what do you eat? Okay, and let's have a talk about this in the next podcast. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you'd like our free training plan, then go to cricketmatters.com/train.